When Aiden mentioned that he feels weird when it sounds like moves through any space at home, at church, school, community, really that clued me in a little bit to what it must be like to move through his world every day, feeling constantly outed, feeling like he doesn't have a place to feel welcome or like he belongs, or a space to feel safe. And so I'm trying to think about what it's like to live as Aiden in his world and how unsafe and unwelcome that must feel all the time. I'm also holding that trans youth and trans folks in general are at greater risk all the time. We hear stories all the time in the media about trans folks who have been harassed and attacked and discriminated against. And I want to be thinking about that in my work with him too. When Aiden asked if I was gay, I wasn't shocked at all. This is something I get asked a lot, particularly by queer and trans youth that I work with. What that lets me know is that they really just want to know whether or not I'm potentially going to be a safe adult. Already, adolescents should question adults. You know, part of what is developmentally appropriate for adolescents is to kind of question adults and to challenge them. And I expect that from a developmental perspective. And then you add on the pieces of, in particular, Aiden moving through the world, not having experiences that feel comfortable or welcoming for him with straight people. I would expect that question might come up. And in making the decision to disclose, I think it's really important as therapists that we are very, very thoughtful about self-disclosures, that we're never doing it for any reason other than to support and benefit our clients, that it's really not about us. It seemed really appropriate in this case for me to share that information with Aiden, and that perhaps that was going to allow him to feel a little more at ease. And I wanted to make sure, as I shared with him, that he knows that doesn't mean that I am going to make assumptions or understand what it's like to be Aiden. There's a little piece that I might understand differently because of how I identify. And that was really, I think, what drove his question in the first place, is an understanding of that. I do hold some concern about Aiden's safety. One of the things that I learned in the paperwork that he filled out is that when he was younger, he witnessed two peers beat up another boy who they believed was gay. And I know that this is an experience that happened when Aiden was pretty young. And it sounds like, based on what he shared, that he also blames himself some for not intervening. And I'm holding that's kind of there in the background, or as we talked about, maybe in the kind of the depths of the basement, if you will, and that's something that we likely will need to dig into at some point. But I want to make sure that Aiden feels a little bit more comfortable with me and in therapy before we go there. I'm also, wanting to continue assessing over time his safety. I don't have a full picture yet of how bad it is where he lives. I'm starting to get a sense. I can piece some things together based on things I hear from other clients and just, information that I have and know about moving, what it's like for trans and queer folks to move through the world, particularly in spaces that are unsafe for them. So I'm going to continue to assess on an ongoing basis Aiden's safety and what we might need to do in terms of safety planning for him. When I talked about Aiden's courage in reaching out for help, I have to say, I often hesitate to use that word, to say courageous or brave or gutsy or whatever it might be, because sometimes for kids like Aiden, it doesn't feel very courageous, or it feels like that's how people see them, that just being who you are, being queer, being trans is somehow a courageous way to move through the world. And that's sometimes things that those folks hear, and it can feel pretty invalidating and unsupportive. So I was conscious of that. And I'm not real sure how that landed for him. My intention in offering that as a frame is recognizing that, particularly when I hear things like Aiden's parents don't even want him on social media or online much, that it took a great amount of courage for him to get online, do the research, find an organization to contact, pick up the phone. That each step in that process was probably pretty scary and pretty hard. And it lets me know a lot about what it took for Aiden to get there and just how desperate he is to get out of the environment that he's in and into one that feels that can feel like he belongs. When I mentioned that therapy might help make Aiden's world a little bit bigger, there were a couple of things going through my mind. One is that Aiden's world right now is so constricted and so small, both because of the size of the town that he lives in, and he's grown up in the same community with the same people. He's an only child, and and then you put a pandemic on top of that, right? And his world just keeps getting smaller. And so one thing that I wanted to offer is possibly just a little light at the end of the tunnel is that maybe we could use this time together and use therapy as a way to make his world a little bit bigger, even feel like it could be bigger down the road. And that may mean, supporting him and building some online community, or just even knowing that there are other resources and groups of people out there where kids like him can connect with one another and can choose to build a healthier community for themselves so that they have a place to belong. And my hope is that Aiden can start to have just even small moments of experiencing a sense of belonging with other people, even if it's not in person for now, so that the future looks a little bit more hopeful when things are looking and feeling pretty dim right now. That's my hope.
I think something the therapist did in this session that made me consider a second one is that it seemed like she really understood what I was saying, even when I didn't quite know how to phrase it. Like, she was willing to listen, and I don't think I've had somebody who was willing to listen to me. I think that by trying therapy, I can maybe try and make a plan for how I'm going to get through the next 2 years. Nothing else seems to be working, so I guess this couldn't hurt. I think that finding new relationships in my life could help. I mean, I only really have one right now that is helping me, so I think that trying to find other people to interact with would make me feel better. I think that the therapist's idea that I can create my own kind of chosen family, it's a nice thought. I'm not sure how much I believe it just yet, but I would like for it to be true because of my current relationship with my real family. It would be nice for there to be people out there who can treat me the way that a family should. There are definitely some things that I didn't feel comfortable telling the therapist during the session because I just met her. She seems nice, and hopefully I can learn how to trust her. But right now, there are some things that I don't feel comfortable talking about.